Industry Insider is only available at Promo Corner, the leader in digital marketing for the promotional products industry. Each Monday, they discuss, dissect, and debate a single issue impacting the world of promotional marketing from every industry perspective. Now, it's time for Promo Corner's Industry Insider.
Welcome to another edition of the Industry Insider, your promotional products podcast, where you can get all the nerdy news you need to know about. My name is Jeff Franklin, National Accounts Manager with Headwear USA, and I'm joined today by two other lovely folks. But before we get to them, I got to tell you, this incredible broadcast that you're about to tune into is brought to you by our good friends over at Tervis. Look, Tervis has been around since 1946, and they're celebrating 75 years in business, and they started with their classic line. They've got sleek styles that make perfect for the active and on-the-go lifestyle. Tervis is the original double-wall insulated drinkware that keeps your cold drinks cold and reduces condensation, and it's backed by a made-for-life guarantee, which is awesome. Available in several sizes, including a 12-ounce mug, 16-ounce or 24-ounce tumblers, and a 24-ounce water bottle. Made from Triton plastic, made in America, lifetime warranty, dishwasher, and microwave safe and BPA free. So go check them out at tervispromos.com for more information. Why don't we say hi to Meg Erber. Meg, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I don't know if you saw my green shake that I was drinking.
I did not.
I sweetened it up with some peaches, but the peaches don't go well with the celery and the kale or something. I don't know, but I'm going to finish it.
Yeah. So just a heads up, kale and spinach are actually okay with a little bit of fruit, but the celery is very overpowering, in my opinion, when you try to throw that into one of those.
There's like apple. I don't know. It's not bad, but there's like cayenne and turmeric and ginger and all good stuff, but.
Very good. Well, we're joined today by a very, very special guest, ASI's President and Chief Executive Officer, Tim Andrews, and super excited, pumped to have you. You actually took some time away from vacation to join us today. Super appreciative of it. But Tim, why don't you say hi? And then it is customary for us around here to give you a good 3 to 4 minute introduction to tell us how you got started in the promotional products industry and what you've been up to since.
Great. Well, thanks very much for asking me to join. And I'm certainly glad I'm not in person with at least one of the two of you, because I wouldn't even want to smell what she was describing that she was drinking. So so I'm happy that we're at a distance for the first time. I've been happy to be on Zoom in a while. So I joined the industry about 18 years ago. I had a phone call from a headhunter who said, we've got a very interesting opportunity at a family-owned business. And I met the Cohn family, and I didn't even know this was an industry. I certainly knew that I had used promotional products in many ways, personally and professionally, over the years that I had been in business, but I didn't know that it was a $15 billion industry back then, I think. And came in, and I thought it was probably a 3 or 4 year gig, to work here, and then I would move to something else. But like so many people in this industry, I popped in, and you can't pop out once you're in this industry. People stay. And so I really fell in love with the people I work with the family that, has owned ASI since 1962, and the people that are in the industry. I mean, we have incredible colleagues across every distributor and every supplier firm. I mean, what they all do is just great. And I've been so happy to be in the industry, and I intend to be here until I'm not working sometime in the future, far in the future, I hope.
Sure. Well, I do actually want to just say congratulations and a quick thank you as well for having the courage and bravery to go ahead and host ASI Chicago, the first nationwide large conference. So thank you very much for doing that and putting that on. I'd actually love to get some of your feedback as far as what that planning process was like, and any sort of sinking feelings that may have led up to that.
Yeah, it was gut wrenching. I mean, what a difficult for all of us who are in any sort of an event business. And of course, we host events. Everyone listening, though, attends events. And so it was really a very difficult year or so in terms of the staffing, in terms of what we had to do at the show, but also prepping for that. We had to make the decision in early March about whether we would be able to have a show or whether we wanted to produce a show in July. And that's because in each of these cities, there are multitudes of contracts that you have with the convention center, with all the different venues, with the food people, the hotels, transportation, all those folks. And so you have to really finalize those several months in advance. And so when we actually made that decision, a small team of us made that decision, it was about $1 million decision. If it hadn't gone off, we would have probably lost close to that number. And at that time, you couldn't have more than about 20 or 30 people in Chicago in a room. I don't care how big the room was. So even the convention center was saying to us, we don't know that you can actually have a show here in July. We think you should move it to the fall. And I said, I get a feeling the vaccinations are starting to roll out. People are getting vaccinated. People are feeling comfortable. I think that we're all getting a little stir crazy in our homes. And I think by July, people are going to want to be traveling and be on the road again. So we made that call, and it turned out to be a really good call, sandwiched between, a pandemic and then sort of a refreshed pandemic, unfortunately, that we seem to be in a little bit now. So our timing turned out to be fortuitous. And I think the people that were there really appreciated that we had the show and were able to pull it off. And our surveys show our suppliers told us we're off the charts with them in terms of their viewpoint of the show. We set records in terms of their feedback of how they thought about the show. So we're really happy with the outcome.
Yeah, I know I personally would normally go to ASI Chicago, and I wasn't able to this year, but the president, Nick Mirich, he did attend, and he had nothing but great things to say. Said everything that he heard on the floor, the buzz was great. So I think you guys definitely made the right decision, and just, I'm really appreciative of it because I know our industry needs it. We need to, press on and move forward. And so thank you for that. But one of the reasons why I asked that question was I kind of had a segue into, I know just recently one of the largest distributors in our industry has just put out a notice that their national show that they do, they're mandating the vaccine. So, I mean, is that something that came up in conversation with ASI Chicago? Is it something that you guys will consider moving forward? Because I think it sets a pretty large precedence. And regardless of what side of the table you're on, it means a lot to everybody involved. So.
Yeah, we did think about that. We actually had processes in place before, about a month before the show, that would have required us to do temperature checks every day and to do all sorts of other things. But we decided to follow CDC guidelines at that time, which didn't require any of that and did not require people to be masked if they were vaccinated. And so, I think that I did see that news, about that distributor firm. I think we're all making decisions, and we just have to look inside ourselves and say, what do I feel comfortable with? As an organizer of an event, as somebody who's attending an event. And I think all of us are sort of searching for what's the right answer going to be. I don't know what we would do today if we were having Chicago next week. I probably would have more precautions in place, frankly, at this point because of the Delta variant and other variants. So, I think people have to make whatever call is right for them. And there'll be some people who decide not to go to that event probably, and that's okay too. I think we have to be very accommodating for people, that whether they're employees or whether they're customers, that we have to be realizing people are making their own personal decisions, and we can't hold anybody accountable to their decision except themselves.
Yeah, I think one of the things to really consider as well is that, I mean, the vaccine is still it's not FDA approved. It is under emergency use only, basically. So, I mean, there's repercussions with, mandating that kind of thing without it being fully approved as well. So, I mean, I think there's stuff you got to consider on both sides of the spectrum for sure. But Meg, did you have anything you wanted to say in regards to that before we move to the next topic? I mean, I'm kind of, Tim and I are dominating the conversation. I want you to be able to get a word in if you
No,
want.
it's fine. I have, again, I think the vaccination is such a personal little thing. I don't even really want to talk about it, but it's a tough and that's a strong stance to make. That's all I want to say about that. That's a very strong stance to make.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, we are here to talk to you about basically the 2021 state of the industry and the information that ASI gathers every year. You guys, first of all, you guys have an incredible team that does the research and all of that. Like, I love what you guys do more than anybody else out there because the information is always so good and so useful. You guys put together great infographics to really help in the sales mode of things. So really appreciate you and your team for that. But this just recently came out, and would love to go through some of the segments of the state of the industry if you'd want.
Sure, absolutely. And thank you for the compliments. I mean, our team is awesome. I mean, I'm really proud of the work that our research and our editorial teams do that cover the industry, both digitally and in print. Let's start first about sort of the second quarter. So, 2020 is sort of old hat a little bit now. In the second quarter, sales were up about 27%. That's measured based on what distributors have told us, in all of our research. That's the first year-over-year quarterly increase since the second quarter of 2019. But of course, year-over-year occurred in relation to a disastrous second quarter of 2020. So, we're happy it's up, not unexpected that it's up in the second quarter. I think one of the more telling pieces of that, though, is we have something called the Counselor Confidence Index. And the Counselor Confidence Index was around 112 pre-COVID, and it dropped down to, I think it was probably in the 60s or something during COVID. And it really measures how distributors feel about the optimism they have for the industry. We're now at 96. So the baseline is 100. That's sort of, that's the baseline. We're at 96 in the second quarter. So that's, an incredible place to be, considering that, just a few months ago, we were 20, 30, 40 points below that. So I think people were very positive. I think that, 2020 was a very difficult year for everybody. PPE, we should all still be very proud of what we did in terms of PPE. It really saved so many industry players, suppliers, and distributors. I think it proved that, our customers really trust us. End buyers said first to distributors, I need PPE to save my friends and my family and my customers. And we were there. And I think suppliers did a great job of picking that up and really, doing great work in that period as well. So, I think that, we're in a great building mode right now. I think that there's a lot of unknowns. The second quarter was maybe special because it was sort of this sort of reactivation a bit of some of the COVID variants, but some really great, strong markets in the second quarter. Healthcare was very strong. Education's picking up. People are going to go back to school. People are planning for sports teams and all sorts of things in the fall. Construction is incredibly powerful right now. Manufacturing has come back. Real estate is hot in basically, I think, every city and every burg around. So I think there's a lot of very hot markets that are going on that are going to really help us in the second half of the year.
Sure. Meg, you look like you were about to say something, so I'm gonna.
Sorry, Meg.
No, it's okay. It's great because I took all these notes about, second quarter versus last year's second quarter. So it's funny, we did a lot of research and what our customers were seeing over the last 12 months. And then we're comparing it to 2019. So if you're saying we're up 20% this quarter, right? I'm sorry, second quarter for last year, right? So how is that based off of 2019 numbers? Like, where is that? Are we on par with 2019? Yeah.
Yeah, we're still down. So, last year we dropped about 45% in the second quarter. So we dropped 45%. We came back 27% off that lower base. So we're probably still down 25-30%, I would say, probably in the second quarter. But we're building. The fact that we were up is great news. And we're seeing it in all of our, ESP is the platform that we use that is used by about 65-70% of the industry to do searching on by distributors. And we're seeing that move up. It's been moving up every month in terms of the number of active users, the number of times they log in, the number of searches they do. And that's been really, that's at levels in the last 2 months we had not seen before COVID. So definitely things are coming back, and it's across the whole country. It's not just in certain areas.
Yeah. Well, now, of course, we've got supply chain things to worry about. So, I mean, you talked about that counselor's confidence index of being 96. I mean, I think that's actually really great to hear, considering the issues that we're dealing with the labor shortage and supply chain issues and length of time production, all these sort of things. So that's really uplifting and great to hear that people are still, very confident in where we're headed.
Yeah, it's really tough to be confident, given all those things. And we all see it, we all hear about it every single day. And it goes back, and they're now having some COVID outbreaks in China that have now closed some factories in some areas there again. So that's going to provide another sort of hiccup, unfortunately, probably in the supply chain. And the supply chain is a lot more complicated than people think. This isn't only a mug or some other product that is being shipped from point A to point B. It's all the inputs that go into creating that mug or that product, whatever it is. And so, one of the suppliers was telling me the other day, we were talking about backpacks, for instance, and he was talking about the number of places where all the parts that make up a backpack come from, and how there's a shortage in each of those pieces, and there's delays in getting all those pieces to the place where they're actually then manufactured and pulled together to make a backpack. And so I think it's not just an A to B spot. This is 7 spots getting to one spot, getting to another spot. And, we had 16, 18 months of demand problem in the promotional products industry, where demand was down and was muted. And now it looks like we're going to be facing 12, 16, 18 months of supply problem. And we certainly didn't anticipate that. But I don't see a turn fast. Everybody I talk to is saying we're 6 months, 8 months, 9 months out from having that really rectified. And so we could be, in the second quarter of next year before we really feel a sense of back to normalcy for inventory and product.
Yeah. Sorry, real quick. I was going to say, I think when COVID first hit and things shut down for the 2 weeks, and people, I think it was the NBA or someone, they were like, yeah, we're not expecting to get back until, this summer, June, July. And we're all laughing like, that's a little dramatic, don't you think? And here we are, more than halfway through 2021. And we're talking about 2022 second quarter. And it's like, that's reality. That's not even thinking, okay, we're not even being dramatic. That is reality. And I think a big part of it is because of the supply chain issues, like you just said. Listening to all the industry podcasts, 58% of suppliers have explored sourcing alternate countries due to the uncertain trade issues and everything going on with China. So then you have, but none of these other countries, Mexico, anywhere, have the infrastructure that China does. So they can't compete on any level. So that's why, all these places that these other pieces are coming from are trying to also now not just do that, they're trying to do everything else that's being sourced there. Are you seeing a bigger take in now USA made searches because of that? I know probably pre-pandemic, yes, but then people's self-preservation probably took over and they were like, well, I can get it cheaper and over there.
I would love to, people ask me this question all the time, and I would love to say yes. We had, only about 1 to 3% of searches in ESP are people looking for something made in the US specifically. And that ticked up maybe 1 percentage point during the pandemic and sort of in the last, 6 months, say, but it's not measurably different, frankly. So while people talk about made in USA, I think that in reality, there's so few products on the hard goods side, especially, that's just it's a difficult thing. There's certainly some proud suppliers, some great suppliers, and I would urge people to look at those suppliers. But the reality is, people are searching for a product that meets their need at a price point that they want, and their focus on USA is just people talk about it, but they don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm not surprised by that at all, to be honest with you, because I mean, even if you try to source in the U.S., we have the same labor issues, if not worse labor issues than anywhere else in the world right now. So we don't have the production capabilities, we don't have the infrastructure to be able to take care of those orders. So the more people that do, lean into that is only going to make the production times blow out even further, and we're just not going to be able to keep up. I mean, look, you can still produce in China and still air it in faster than you can do a USA made product, and it's cheaper in most cases, even with the inflated air freight prices. So I'm not surprised by that at all.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So I was also looking at the rush orders, how in the past, the rush orders would be the cause of the errors, and now the rush orders have gone down, but the delays haven't. The delays are still going up. They're counting that to, labor shortages, people furloughing last second quarter, because if you weren't selling PPE, right, then you weren't really needed, because that's all that people were buying last second quarter. What is it? The labor shortages, people coming back to work. So then when you're rushing, it's causing these errors because you want to just hurry up and get it done, So, I mean, are we missing something else? Like, is there more what else is causing these errors, you think, in this industry? Because it's a big problem right now.
It's a huge problem. I think also frayed nerves, I would add to that. I think that people have, short tempers, short fuses, and when people are making decisions, they want to buy something, they really want it quickly. I think, and that whole rush thing, that's permanent. That's going to be here forever. People are always going to want product. Amazon has taught people that they can get a product in 24 or 48 hours. And people miss the part about it's a custom product when you buy a promotional product, or that it's 5,000 pieces, not one, that you're buying on Amazon, and the Amazon piece is not imprinted. So I think people have got this expectation, though, that they can order very quickly, very close to something and get it. And that's not going to change. I mean, I think suppliers need to really figure out over the course of a long period, and they've been doing, by the way, suppliers have done an incredible job in this entire pandemic and all the things that they've dealt with, because they were, in some cases, essential employees. So they had employees in places where not many people were going into offices or into factories, and they were producing through incredibly difficult times. And so I want to give them a big shout out. But I think suppliers overall in the next 3 to 5 years have to continue to make improvements in automation and all sorts of other things so that they can turn an order the day they get it. I think, to me, that should be the goal. When the order comes in, it ought to be out the same day. And I know that's a huge thing for some people, and it's a very big project, to undertake, but that's the expectation of customers. And that's going to be a real differentiator for suppliers who can't make that happen. So I think suppliers really need to stay focused on that through this very difficult time. But I think frayed nerves, I would add that to your list.
Okay. And I also think, for distributors, the biggest sector that they were seeing the growth in, when going back to the sales margins, was the e-commerce, and the advice that I'm seeing being given, if you're not jumping on that e-commerce bandwagon, you need to, that's the future. And it kind of also plays into what suppliers could be doing is, invest in technology, invest in yourselves. You guys need to be able to help these distributors. If you want to see that growth in that business, then that's where they're attacking, because that's where the business is. And we need to be able, as suppliers, accommodate them with those company stores, the web stores, the printing aspect of it, being able to educate them on, and the expectations as well of what the time frames. But I think just partnering with the distributors and vice versa to come up with a game plan is the best way to go. But yeah.
I think one of the things that suppliers and distributors could do, and we're trying to help this, at ASI on our platform, is make reordering easier. Such a large number of orders are really reorders, and if they're not identical, they're pretty close to identical. And I think that we haven't done a good job of looking at that and saying, if that's 25 or 30% of the industry, or whatever that percentage is, what do we do to make that at least more streamlined? And I think that could be really helpful for distributors and suppliers to focus on as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned that you think suppliers should continue to sort of increase in the infrastructure and the ability to maybe turn in 24 or 48 hours even. Do you think that the market will be able to absorb the additional cost that will take? Because obviously it comes down to infrastructure. Standard production times right now are, say 3 to 5 days, but right now, because of the situation we're dealing with production shortage and all, or labor shortage and all that, we're 10, 12, 14 days out. Some people are even further than that out for production. So how do you shrink a 14-day production down to 1 day without throwing people at it? And people cost money, especially competing with Amazon at $20, $25 an hour. You've got to pay people more.
Right. I think you've got to do it through automation. And I don't have all the answers, but I just think over time, people are going to expect faster turns. They're not going to accept higher prices though. So this is like a business question we always have. How do we do more with fewer resources, with the same resources we have? And how do you automate that? And I've been in some factories that, by the way, do it great. The turnover is 48 hours and et cetera. So I think it's about investing in the right things. I think it's about, making it a priority. I don't have the answer of how you do it, but I think we've got to be able to do it. And I think you spread me to 48 hours. I said the same day. So I think that's got to be.
Amazon hasn't figured out 24 hours completely yet. There's still, some things are 24 hours, but the most things are still 2 days. So.
Think about how differentiated you would be, or a supplier would be, if they were able to figure it out.
No kidding. Yeah. And there's like you said, there are some that have, but I think when that becomes the expectation, and then every order turns into a 24-hour order, then, it's a whole different ballgame, because there's a lot more going through that filter,
I think also, the blank apparel suppliers like myself, we've also kind of set that bar on that same day, because that's what we are doing. We are shipping out same day, like unless it hits cutoff or there's some electrical storm or for some crazy reason, we are shipping same day. But with that being said,
that's a blank though, right?
It is blank. That I didn't finish. Yes, it is a blank item. You send that to the screen printer, you're looking at like 3 weeks to a month right now. Like, I don't know anyone that's doing less. So, the people who specialize in the rushes, yes, but whew, man.
We can't benchmark ourselves on what's going on now, though. I'm talking about sort of a longer trending kind of thing, where where do we want to get to, and where do we go, so that when this happens the next time, we're better positioned, because we won't have all that dependency built into the system. How do we optimize that?
Sure.
Again, no easy answers.
Sure. Well, I guess if you can't get people to go to work, you just got to, build the robots, right?
Hey, I think automation is, as painful as it is for people to sometimes swallow, I think that automation has changed the world since the cars were manufactured in the early part of the last century, right? So I think automation's got to be something everyone's focusing on every minute.
Sure. Well, let's talk sales real quick. So we were a $25.8 billion industry, and last year it sunk down to 20 point something, right? So we were down over $5 billion. But a very large portion of that 20 billion that we did last year was PPE. Over 5 billion. So, if you take that out of the equation, this industry would have gone from 25 to 15. That's a huge drop, and trying to make that up. So PPE for sure saved our industry. And, you alluded earlier to the Delta variant and things potentially maybe swinging back that direction with mask mandates or whatever else. Do you see or foresee that coming up, or PPE continuing to play a role in what we're doing on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think it'll continue to play a role. It will not be the role that it played in 2020. And there's two reasons for that. First of all, many of the big buyers in 2020 have now found alternative sources of product at much lower price points. than we were offering, in 2020 and early 21. So I think that it will, even if we had the same volume of units, the price point is diminished so much that the dollar value of that would be, quite a lot less than it was in 2020 for the industry. So I think it'll continue to play a role. I don't think it'll be a significant role because of those big players, like healthcare companies were big buyers through our channel. They found other alternatives, not completely, but many of them have found other alternatives at much lower price points. And so I think we've moved on to more branded merchandise, and certainly there's some blank being sold. But I think we need to get back to what our core is. And I do think that as markets open back up and events start happening and schools go back, I mean, we can all really hope that in the second half of the year, as vaccinations tick up to a higher level and things get back to more normalcy and people start getting back together at the end of this year, maybe early next year, that we'll come out of this fine. But it's going to take a few years. Driving back to that $25 billion number is going to take a while because of where we landed last year. And for 21, I'm not sure yet whether I'm predicting we're going to be flat or down again. It depends on what really happens in the second half of the year in terms of sales. We could be off a bit more because of that big piece of the business that was last year in PP that's not going to repeat.
So you think it's possible to be down from 2020?
I think it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. And not only that, the sales margins are also lower. And that's just the nature of the business right now. We have the sourcing inventory because of, let's say you're going to buy, X, Y, or Z t-shirt or hat, and you can't, but you still need to fill the order because it was a program. You have to go to a different competing supplier. Their prices may be different, but you have to honor that with your customer. So you have that. People are desperate for business, so they're already lowering their margins. I mean, what can we see moving forward? Like, what advice do you have for the industry on this?
Well, I would say that we're seeing margins go down in both distributors and suppliers, and so distributors have been telling me this as well. So I think we're going to see that. I think we have to remember that we, though, are not just in a product business, and on the distributor side, we're providing a lot of services. Many distributors are providing a lot of services that have incredible value to people. So kitting, became such an important part of 2020, for instance, and is continuing into 21. So I think one of the things that distributors need to remember always is that their time is incredibly valuable, their ideas are incredibly valuable, and the added value they perform against that product is incredibly valuable, and not to underprice all of that. So I think that, we as an industry often don't value our time, at the rates that we ought to be valuing our time. And so I've had many distributors say to me, I spent 3 weeks on this project and all these hours, and they go on, and it turns out to be like a $2,000 order. Well, I'm appreciative of the fact that they wanted to serve their client, but they also need to be remembering, if I'm spending an hour doing this, what else could I be spending this hour on? And is this the best use of my time? So I think we need to make sure we're pricing ourselves properly, we're positioning ourselves, and that we're working with customers that are the customers we want to work with. I think that's the other piece of this. Because you can't always solve everyone's problems for free.
Right. And actually, since you mentioned that, because of the inventory problems that people are having on the supply chain side of things, the actual closing time of an order is a lot longer right now as well, because people are having to find alternatives, or, people aren't fully back to the office yet, or back to, full steam. So when they do finally get the approval on the order, what stock was there is now not there. So there's all those sorts of issues as well. So how do you combat that? I mean, is it just a situation of where, you're foreshadowing what's happening, or you pre-purchase the product and so that it's available? I mean, what do you think is there a solution there?
I think there's a couple of things. One is, I think, in the general headlines of the news and the media, there's a lot about supply chain problems in every industry. And so our customers, I think, realize there's inventory problems. I mean, if someone's trying to buy, a friend of mine was trying to renovate a kitchen and couldn't get a faucet for like 8 weeks or whatever it was, right? So everyone's hearing these stories. And so I think there's a lot of cover that's providing. If we sort of think back to 3 years ago, when tariffs were the thing we'd be talking about, on this call, and not all these other problems, the reason we were able to sort of work through the tariff issues with China in terms of our industry was because so many people were reading about it. They understood, okay, prices are gonna be higher because of tariffs. I think, inflation's up. Inflation came out in the last day or so. I think it was like 5%, 5.1% or something year over year inflation. So I think that customers can be already sensitized by the general headlines about the pricing is going to go up, and there's some supply chain issues, and there's shortages, always drive prices higher. So I think distributors shouldn't be leery of asking for the right price for the product, because you're right, in sort of this diminishing inventory, we should be asking for a higher price point if that's what's fair, for the product that's there.
There's a lot of the supply and demand is a big, I mean, this is a whole other thing. I want to talk about something you already said too, but very quickly, the supply and demand right now is causing the inflation. And you said it's about 5% across the board. So this just came out, I think yesterday. Tyson, right? It's not even just us. This is chicken. Tyson chicken. Okay. The raises their prices on products 39% for pork. Sorry, I can't read backwards. 15 for chicken and 11 for beef. Like, that's insane. It's not just the t-shirts and hats and pens, y'all. It's everywhere. It is everywhere. Yeah. The other thing that you had said was kitting. I think that kitting has been so big throughout this pandemic. It was a way to let our customers know we were thinking about them. It was a way to put on a hybrid or / virtual event, because now we're there with each other with the same kit and the same inclusion. And it's been really, really big. And I think that's only going to get bigger. The only problem that I see with it, and I do have semi solutions, is, we even did kitting for our promo cares event for the Sleep In for Good. And so those of you who don't know, I'm on the board for promo cares. And one of the 5 pillars that we, preach about and that builds us is sustainability. So with all these kits going out, it really it kind of defeats that purpose. So, I mean, that was one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we touched on when we sent out that kit. We used a box from Chameleon Line. It was actually an eco-friendly box that had, they have so many kitting options, but I don't know if they're the only one. And I feel like we need to definitely be conscious of the kits that we're sending out. We don't just want to end up in the brand fill. Give it a dual purpose. I mean, is there anything that you see as ASI sees that we can, aside from that, are there any other options? I mean, I don't want to just everyone be kidding. And now these kits are all in the landfill, not the products that we were selling.
Right. I think that that's a really great point. And I think our industry needs to be careful. And one of the things about kitting is that we also need to make sure that the products that are chosen to be in the kit, are priced that people really want, to understand what's the demographic of the audience where these are being sent. Will people really use these? Will they appreciate them? Will they pass them on to others? What will they do with these things? Because you're right, we don't want to end up in the landfill. That's a bad place. One thing that I've seen that was pretty interesting was someone who used a mailer that then the mailer is actually quite a nice box into itself, like sort of a keepsake kind of box. And it had a very simple sort of wrapper. It was like brown paper wrapper, almost like a grocery sack kind of thing. And then when you took that off, it was like a box you'd want to keep, to sort of, to have in your home. So I think there's ways to do that, but it's pretty tough. And you're right. I feel incredibly guilty when I order from Amazon or some sort of an e-commerce player, and I get 3 things in 3 boxes with all sorts of stuffing or whatever they have. We don't do a good enough job in our society with this. And you're right. I think we need to help lead the way.
Yeah, especially since there is this big push. We need to make sure we're advocating for our industry to do better on that, because we don't want it to go away, right? We use promo to sell promo. That is what this industry is about. We are good at our jobs, and PPE is one of the things that we took on last year, and now it might be kitting. So we just need to make sure that we do it right, and then we keep sending that message out that just because everyone's doing it doesn't mean you have to follow suit. Just do it better, just do it better. And I think that bag that you were talking about, we did one too, and it was a composite bag. So it wasn't a bag that you would actually just throw in the trash. It's something that you could plant, and then the worms would eat it, and it helps grow your flowers. So I thought that was really cool. So yeah.
Love that.
In the interest of sustainability, this incredible podcast has been brought to you by our good friends over at Tervis. All right. And they very heavily focus on sustainability as well. In fact, they partnered up with 4 Oceans and did an ocean cleanup, a beach cleanup on Siesta Key. And according to 4 Oceans, which does the cleanups year round across the world, this was their largest turnout with 1,343 registered participants. And they were able to collect and count the following: 144 straws, 5,877 cigarettes, 463 plastic bottles, 187 plastic cutlery, 355 plastic bags, 234 plastic or foam cups, 1,346 bottle caps, a crazy staggering amount of stuff that they were able to clean up on Siesta Key. But look, they're passionate about their oceans and they care for it and the creatures that call it home. They're committed to making it a better place and have been for 72 years, not just because it's trendy or helps sell tumblers, but because it's the right thing to do. So if you're interested in that or want to get more information or you want to support their cause, go check them out at tervispromos.com and get more information. Do you guys have any, closing remarks? Because I know I want to be respectful of Tim's time, and just super appreciative of you jumping in and joining us today, Tim.
Great, thanks. I just would want one thing. We referenced the State of the Industry report that we do every year at ASI. It's available at asicentral.com/news. You can also search for reports under the research tab on asicentral.com. So great information in this report. It is by far the most cited report published in our industry every year. And lots of information in there about profit margins and evolving sales methods, emerging markets, sourcing trends, supply chain challenges, all sorts of things. And really, it's trying to look forward. So it's reflective of 2020, but it's really saying, okay, what's 21 and 22 going to look like, and how do we get out of this? So I just people and if anybody wants to reach out to me directly, I'm easy to find. tim.andrews@asicentral.com.
Well, Tim, we've talked about that great staff of yours on several occasions now today, and Melissa Newman already beat you to it. She posted the link for the State of the Industry in the comments probably 20 minutes ago.
That's awesome. Thank you, Melissa. Melissa's always on it.
Absolutely.
She's awesome. I have one more question for Tim, actually. Because I took a lot of notes over like the last couple of days, just researching for this podcast, which I normally don't do. But what is the best advice coming from you that you could give to the hardworking people of this industry?
It's a great question.
I think be proud. I think so often, even before the pandemic, you talk to somebody what they do, a distributor, supplier, a decorator, and they sort of look down at their shoes a little bit and say, well, I'm this or whatever. I think we should be incredibly proud of what we do in this industry. We provide the best return on investment for a marketing dollar that anyone can spend in any industry that they're in. The best return on their investment is investing in promotional products as part of their marketing mix. And the second thing I would say about that is we should also be proud of the fact that our industry saved lives in 2020. And so people have used that bad word tchotchkes, well, this industry, no matter what you call it, saved lives in 2020 and in 2021. And I think we should be really proud of that. And finally, we should be also proud of the fact that when our buyers needed promotional products or just PPE that was not even imprinted, the first people they called were their distributors that were trusted partners of their businesses. And the first people that those distributors called were the suppliers that were trusted partners of those distributors. And I think we should be incredibly proud of that fact. And further, we talked about kitting. When people wanted to send kits to their top customers or top prospects, to their employees at their homes, who did they turn to give the addresses to that they trusted would do the right thing? They turned to distributors, and distributors turned to suppliers. So I think we should lift our heads up. We should be proud of what our industry does. We should be forward facing and think about the future, because this is a very bright future for the industry. We will come back. I am bullish on America. I'm bullish on promotional products, and I'm bullish on this podcast. So I hope it's been well for people.
No, thanks, Tim. Really appreciate it. All right. Well, with that being said, we'll let you guys get out of here. Tim, thank you so much again, especially since you're on vacation. Thanks for taking the time out. Really appreciate it. And we could have gone on for another 30 minutes easily, I think, but so much more we could have covered. But really happy with what we were able to cover today, and just appreciate your time.
Great. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Absolutely. All right, guys, take care. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Promo Corner's Industry Insider. For more great content from industry thought leaders, including podcasts, blogs, and videos, visit promocorner.com.